So at what point does the government stay out of the way and let the states handle their business? What crisis is so great that the government has to overreach, not only violate states' rights, but also violate individual rights? Is there a crisis great enough for that in America? And if so, have we seen it yet? Has that happened? Um, in this video, I want to talk about something that Jen Psaki said regarding the state of Florida, my state, and Governor DeSantis in regards to government funds, um, government guidance on kids going back to school, and the like. So, without further ado, let's get into this. I want to hear your thoughts. Let's um, let's have a meeting of the minds in regards to what Miss Psaki had to say, and that way I can see if maybe I'm just crazy or there are a lot of other people out there who think the way I do. So here's the question: what do you think about what Governor DeSantis is doing in Florida in regards to teachers complying, school administrators complying with the orders of the governor in regards to this topic? Let's hear what Ms. Psaki has to say. Here's the question. Listen close.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you about infrastructure in a second, but some other news on COVID and Delta right now. Governor DeSantis in Florida, as you know, is now threatening to withhold salaries of school board members and superintendents in districts that do not comply with his order outlawing mask mandates at schools. What's the White House's take on that?
Okay, before we answer this question, listen to what he said. He said withholding salaries from state employees who refuse to comply with the orders, withholding salaries. Very, very important. Remember that point. And let's take a listen to how she responds to that question.
Well, I do want to call out the courage and the boldness of a number of leaders in Florida, including in Miami-Dade County, people who are stepping up to do the right thing to protect students and keep schools safe and open. We are continuing to look for ways to go back to your question, Peter, for the U.S. government to support districts and schools as they try to follow the science, do the right thing, and save lives. I would note what is publicly available and knowable is that the American Rescue Plan funds that were distributed to Florida to provide assistance to schools have not yet been distributed from the state level. So the question is, why not?
No, 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 no. See, the real question here is, yeah, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but same thing happened um, in Chicago when they talked about defunding the police, and then her answer to that was that there were American Rescue Plans funds made available to address some of these issues. So, in other words, their response to everything is throwing money at it, and not just throwing government money at it because the government doesn't have any money. The government's money comes from the people. So, in other words, throwing your tax dollars at it, right? But there's something even more important here in that response. Up until this point, she just glossed over the fact that the question was about school administrators and employees who failed to comply with what their boss said. You see, they're state employees. And guess who is the most senior official in the state? The governor. Guess who's the most senior official in the state of Florida? Governor Ron DeSantis. In other words, the threat, quote unquote threat, about withholding salaries was essentially a warning that if you do not do your job, you won't get paid. First off, that doesn't sound like really a threat to me. It sounds like a promise, and it also sounds like common sense. You see, you were hired to do a job. You get paid for doing your job. Think about if you went to work and you told your boss that you're not going to do what was asked of you. I'm not going to follow your rules. I'm not going to comply with your requests. I'm not going to follow your orders. I'm not going to do my job, but I still expect a paycheck. And what makes it even more sick in a way is the fact that what she's saying is she's basically telling these people, these employees, that if you go to work and you don't do your job and you don't comply with the orders of your boss, right, your employer, the government, right, should pay you. We're looking for ways for the government to allow you to go to work and not do what your boss tells you to do. That's essentially what this comes down to. But let's continue.
And those can be used to cover expenses that come up in this period of time. They're federal funds, and they're they're under federal discretion. So they just need to be distributed to these schools. We're looking into what's possible.
So in simple terms,
In other words, the government should be able to kind of intercede, step in, and take control in the states. That's basically what she wants. That's what she's getting at. This is a little backdoor that they like to try to use. Let's continue.
what do you say directly to Governor DeSantis about this threatened punishment?
Well,
All right. Important. What do you say to Governor DeSantis about this threatened punishment? That was a direct question. Let's listen.
we would say what we've said from the beginning, Peter, which is that if you're not interested in following the public health guidelines to protect the lives of people in your state, to give parents some comfort as they're sending their kids to school. Schools are opening in Florida this week, I know, in many parts of
Okay. Before we go on, there's two things I got to address here. I can't just let that slide by. Okay. So, one, if you're not willing to follow, the government, um, the government's orders, in other words, see, the governor is in control of the state of Florida. So they have this top-down mentality. It's actually backwards. They think that the federal government is at the top and everybody works for them and everybody's beneath them. But in reality, see, the individual is supposed to have the power. The individual, right? Power to the people. Okay, and then um, it comes to state. Power to the states, and then together they make up this country, and then you have a federal government, right? The federal government is only necessary because you have a bunch of states who have agreed to and decided to work together, right? Just like the government's not necessary without the people. The government works for the people. The government's supposed to serve the people, but they seem to have that backwards. So, in her mind, if you don't do what we say, then you're in the way. Um, when the governor's actually representing his people, and that leads me to the second part of what she just said about the parents, making the parents feel safe, making the parents feel comfortable. See, they like to hide behind protecting people and making people feel safe. But see, in Florida, I know I'm here. I'm a parent. Talk to parents. Parents would love to have the decision-making choice, power regarding their own children. She seems to think she knows what these parents want more than the parents do, which is false. She doesn't, but they don't care. They don't have any desire to listen to the parents in the state of Florida. They want to do what they want to do, and they will lie and say that this is what you want as they do what you don't want them to do to you. Let's continue.
Florida, then get out of the way and let public officials, let local officials do their job to keep students safe. This is serious, and we're talking about people's lives. And we know based on public health guidelines that even though kids under a certain age are not yet eligible, masks can have a huge impact.
Couple follow-ups.
In terms of their politics.
Okay. See, she likes to talk about being the guidance. So now what she's talking about is the science. The guidance is supposed to be developed based upon the science. But if you notice it, whenever she speaks, she never really talks about the specific science that she's referring to. In fact, this is the same information that a lot of media channels, majority media channels, try to silence and shut down. This is the same information that you would get kicked off Twitter for, and get censored on other platforms for the exact same information. And still refuses to quote that information. She just acts as if the information is something other than what it is. We're talking about kids here, right? Even when they talk about kids having contracting this thing, right? They never talk about what happens to those kids after they contract this thing. It's never part of the conversation. In other words, when you get sick, what happens to you after you get sick? What happens to these kids after they get sick? You see, getting sick is part of growing up. That's how we become stronger, right? That's how we develop an immunity to things, right? But I just find it interesting how they never talk about that. That's like having the same argument about shutting things down because of the common cold, and then spouting out statistics about how many kids caught the cold, but never going beyond that point. Let's continue.
Well, not undoubtedly that happened at some point. On the DeSantis Florida situation, you mentioned the relief money that's heading to Florida. Are you guys aware of any mechanism you could use to withhold federal funds from Florida if the governor keeps up this kind of?
You see this guy right here, this idiot right here, this reporter / idiot. Look at him. He's like a little diabolical little worm. So he's talking about, is there any way to withhold federal funds? And look at the way that my man to our right, his left of him is looking at him like, are you freaking crazy? Are you insane? But he's literally he's phrasing it as a question. But what he's really saying is, isn't there some way that we can that we can force them to do what we want them to do by withholding money? If we could just withhold the money, we could force them to do what we want them to do. That's how they all think. But let's continue.
Activity?
I don't have any announcements to preview today. Obviously, we don't want to hurt the people of Florida. We want the people of Florida to continue doing what they've done, which is to go out and get vaccinated, make sure they're protecting themselves and their neighbors and loved ones. What I was really speaking to at that point is these schools being under the threat and their administrators of not getting pay.
In other
And
words, you're getting
certainly
carried
we're
away,
looking
brother.
into that and how we could help address that.
You are looking into a workaround if need be, if the governor withholds funds.
This dude is a worm. I mean, he is diabolical. He is. Ooh.
Well, again, it's knowable that the American Rescue Plan school funds have not been distributed to across the state to all the schools that would be eligible, but we're continuing to look into what our options are to help protect and help support these teachers and administrators who are taking
There's
steps
that
to
word
protect the
again.
people in there.
There's that word again. Protect. Protect. Anytime they start talking about protecting you, your spidey sense should start tingling, and you need to get nervous.
Communities.
Yeah, that's it. Anytime these people are starting talking about protecting you and keeping you safe, 9 times out of 10, there's always an ulterior motive. There's always something else that they want, and it's 99% of the time it's more power, to broaden the government power. Now, I call this little conversation pointing out politicians for a reason. I didn't say pointing out Democrats. I didn't say pointing out Republicans. I said pointing out politicians. You got to understand that you can't trust any politician 100%. And I know that may sound like a pretty bold statement, especially like if you take Ron DeSantis. I'm a DeSantis fan right at the moment, right now, but he's a politician too. And why do I say that? How could I say that about politicians? All politicians. How could I say that you can't trust any politician 100%? For one reason, politicians are people. They're human beings, just like you and I. and they're susceptible to temptations and influences. And the more power that they have, the more susceptible they are to that power. Absolute power corrupts, absolutely. Power corrupts. It's a fact of life. And this is why it doesn't matter if it's a Democratic presidency, a Republican presidency, which party's in office. Of the two, only two parties that you really have to pick from who's in office. The problem is the government having too much power and control over your life. Period. Period. Well, that's all I got to say about that, guys. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. Share the content. Let's have a conversation about it. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I really, truly do want to know what you think about this. Let's have a meeting of the minds. On that note, I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care. Peace.